guests on here that are incredible. If you think that I have a motive for doing some things, well, I do. Look, we'll listen to anybody who has a positive story. Doesn't matter where they come from, what they believe. Some of these people come on here and they really just want to help other people. People aren't trying to be millionaires. They come on here not trying to. They just want to help other people, and I am so happy that I have the forum to give that to them. So I think we do a good thing here at WMAP. WMAP, the world's most amazing people. Hey guys, welcome. And speaking of people that are making a difference. My next guest, I'm so excited. I've been wanting to talk, with this gentleman since the last time, and he's up to a lot of stuff. I'm talking about Linwood Jackson Jr. Now, Linwood is this incredible author, and he is a student of the Bible. He just released a audio book. It's called The Prayer for Change, and also he just put out another book, which you guys can get if you go to Amazon.com or if you go to LinwoodJacksonJr.com. Now, let me remind you that Linwood's the author of Perfecting and Reforming Personal Religion, Heaven's Genuine and Counterfeit Ministry, Fallen Record, The Christian Transgression, A Battle of Hosts, The Controversy of the Sixth Seal. The guy is such an interesting guy. He studies the Word. And I think that's one of the gifts that he has, is he's able to take these, at times, very complex and hard to understand themes and put his opinion in and kind of how it affected him, or what he thinks we should take from it. And he really does believe that the Bible will actually define mental and spiritual health. And he talks about how we can achieve that health practically, and we can improve as a person, and all those things, just, with his faith. I think that, you know what? With no further ado, guys, I don't do it justice without talking to the man himself. Guys, it's Linwood Jackson Jr. Hey, Linwood, what's going on, buddy?
What is going on? It is good to be back.
Yeah, I'm glad to have you, man.
Thank you. I just want to say, before we start anything, your team is incredible, incredibly awesome. You and your team taking care of me very well, and it's an absolute pleasure to be back.
Linwood, thank you so much. That makes my day whenever I hear, and I hear it often about how awesome my staff is, and they really do a great job. So thank you very much for saying that. And it's believe me, those words are very dear to me. So thank you for saying that.
Thank you. And you mentioned the mental and spiritual aspect. I believe everything you said. Yeah, it's true, but it goes a little bit deeper, because, mental and spiritual health, it's not just about knowledge. Even though you take it in, it's about how you use it,
Oh, okay. That's what you mean by, but it's all centered pretty much around the Bible, right?
Of course.
Yeah.
And focused around the Bible, but for us to use it, those counsels as food for our soul, basically. So you definitely hit it on the point.
Well, you see, I'm at the point where there's still parts of the Bible I haven't even read. I'm sure that you've been through all of them. So, can you remember when you had something really hit you, and you have kind of almost an epiphany? Did it ever happen when you were reading a certain part of it or something?
Definitely. Even to this day, as I'm still, I guess after the years, it's been 8 years I've been studying the Bible thoroughly. I stay away from popular theology or popular thought or general or traditional interpretation of the Bible, just because I care to take in for myself personally what I need from it, because traditional understanding has something that's general, and it kind of stimulates in a way that's not personal.
What do you mean by that, Linwood? Can you be a little more specific on that one?
Yeah, of course, definitely. There are specific teachings in religion, or specifically what I deal with, the Christian religion, that would make you forget about you. For example, just the teaching of heaven. I'll just say, for example, the teaching of heaven.
Okay.
In the Bible, there's no validation for it. There's actually proof of disproving of anything of the sort. And so these specific teachings, they're put in place for a specific reason. And part of the reason is to make you forget about you. If you're, for example, spending your entire time thinking about some goal after you die, what about now how you're living in the condition that you're living in, and the people that you're affecting by that condition?
Wow.
You know,
Wow. That's a very unique point of view.
Definitely. And I can, for example, I'll just give you when in the book of Acts, chapter 2, when Peter's talking about the resurrection of Jesus, and he connects it to the Old Testament prophets that spoke about David, and David himself writing. And then Peter, in Acts 2 and Acts 3, as he's explaining what went down, he said, to this day, David is not ascended into any heavens. David's grave is with us. And
is with us. What does that mean? It means
is with us, meaning that the man is in the ground. There's nothing more to. Yeah.
Okay.
The man is in the ground. Whatever's associated to the man, it's with us. There's nothing beyond or below of David. He's here with us. And so, reviewing that, I'm giving a brief synopsis, but taking in the whole of those two chapters, along with other verses in the Bible, disprove the evolution of a heaven, which is, of course, that tradition came from the Greek philosophy of abusos and things like that, of a hell, which came from Plato. Plato's actually the originator of a hell, or anything above hell. Plato.
So Linwood, you don't what do you think of what? I'm sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off. Go finish your thought, please.
No. I was just I was going to end by saying that the certain religious traditions, the Christian religion takes them from the past Roman and the past Greek traditions, and so these specific teachings, they're still here, but for the purpose of distracting us, I would say mentally and inwardly also. That was all I was going to say.
I thought it was awesome what you said before, is if you're looking for a goal after you die, it's really affecting how you treat and how your relationships are. Is there any concrete evidence in the Bible about heaven and hell?
Language is specific, because it's difficult when I break down language, because the Bible isn't a Western book. We read the Bible as if it's a Western book, as if it's Western culture.
Mm-hmm.
And that makes me, just maybe a month or two ago, somebody said to me, "But didn't Christians write the Bible?" And my answer was actually no. Like, Christians only translated the Bible from Syrians. Syrians actually wrote the Bible. Eastern people, Eastern culture. And so to read the Bible from a Western perspective, it's completely discounting the original perspective of how those people defined God.
Is that kind of lost in translation term that we've heard so many times?
Mm-hmm. And even when you do read the Bible, I would say there's more errors in the Bible than there are actually legitimate sentences. And that's because the Bible is being translated from an ancient Syrian text. And there's not, and the errors that are there, they're not really errors, they're just words that are substituted for the actual words. So when I read the Bible, even though I'm reading it in English, I translate it back into Greek, and I translate it back into Hebrew, and then I retranslate that Greek and that Hebrew back into English to get what the full sentence actually means.
Wow.
You have to. You have to.
Maybe that's why all your books are so successful and people are loving them. because this is you talk about putting research into your craft, into your passion. It's pretty incredible that all this research goes into each one of your books.
It really does, because even when I'm talking to people, even the comments I get from people that read the things that I write and that hear the things that I say on the radio, it's the depth is absolutely necessary, because they're sitting in these churches and they don't believe what the pastor is teaching. And even weirder than that, there are pastors that don't believe what they're saying.
Well, that doesn't seem too genuine. Wow.
And it's kind of, well, there's a very, very dark side to religion out there. And
that's kind of what you hit when you said heaven's genuine and counterfeit ministry, right?
Exactly. Yeah.
Yeah.
That's what touches on. Yeah.
Yeah. People can get that if they go to Amazon.com or if they go to LinwoodJacksonJr.com. You know, the one I want to read is the Battle of Hosts, the controversy over the sixth seal. I started trying to read Revelation, but there's a lot of things I just don't understand.
Yeah, it's interpretation and language, breaking that language down. The entire book of the Revelation is actually just a complete summary of events that took place from, Genesis to Jude, the very first book, to the second to the last book of the Bible. And so every image, every statement, you can find it in all of those books. And that book, A Battle of Hosts, is basically a book that I put together after hearing someone talk about certain visions that John gave in the book of the Revelation. They didn't quite add up to me. So I spent maybe a year and a half analyzing what they were saying, and then maybe another year and a half deducing what my findings were from that. And then everything just got compiled into a book, breaking down chapter by chapter the different seals, because there's 6, 7 in the book of Revelation, and they each deal with specific ages and generations within the Christian religion and how it's going to actually play out when the time comes.
Wow, and I want to talk about that. I want to talk about your latest book, but before we get there, I want to talk about the new audio book, A Prayer for Change. Now, did you actually record this, or did someone else do it? How does that work?
I actually recorded it. Yeah, it was actually a collection of essays that I put together, and then just picture someone just standing in front of an audience and then just recording it. That's kind of the feel and the vibe I wanted to give across from that. Okay. But the book is, a prayer for change. Usually when we ask or we think that we, want change, there's substitutes that we do. For example, we turn the music up high so we don't hear our thoughts.
Guilty.
There's a whole lot of things that we do, including, even going to church and just sitting there and believing that we're doing something right for a change. But as soon as we leave church, we're into the same old habits again. Like nothing's happened.
Yeah, I think you're describing everyone on this planet, I believe, or people who actually will go. I think that's so common. Do you talk about any of that in the Bible Sabbath, or Prayer for Change is in the essays? That's pretty much what it's about. Or tell me more. Tell me more about Prayer for Change. I didn't mean to jump around there, but there's so many things that you say. I just want to. I could spend the entire interview on just one of your topics, but. But A Prayer for Change is the audio book, and you can get that at LinwoodJacksonJr.com. And tell me more about that, the Prayer for Change.
I wanted to take the time to, in a simple way, break down what the Bible's philosophy is for change. Okay. And maybe I'll do that briefly. I begin by talking about the illustration of Jesus on the cross, and I go into talking about how the disciples, or the first apostles, how they actually taught what that religion was, in the way that Paul and Peter and John looked at that illustration of the man hanging on the cross, is that the body represented a religious philosophy. And, for example, as Paul says, having abolished in his flesh the enmity, even the law of commandments contained in ordinances. What that imagery is a specific philosophy represented by the body of a man. So that body that is crucified represents a religious philosophy. To see that body crucified, it means that a religious philosophy is also crucified. And the combative, interplay of that is that the religious philosophy that was crucified is the actual philosophy of the Jewish religion. And the Jewish religion, specifically, the philosophy is that your personal righteousness or your personal favor with God or your entrance into heaven or anything that would grant you favor into God's eyes, it comes from you doing religious laws, religious traditions, believing in certain commandments and doctrines, and to doing them to please God. This is how the basic Jewish religions function, Christian religion included, and all of the other religions that fall into that same category. In order to please God, you have to do something for God. When you're doing something for God, then you are, in a sense, righteous, and then you can start feeling better about yourself. And you can start preparing for your life after you die, whether you're going to a good place or a bad place. This is what the philosophy of the body on the cross represented to the first apostles, as Paul, Peter, and John taught it. And when, that body is crucified, that philosophy is crucified, and the crucifixion of that philosophy opens us up to an entirely new way of living. And that entirely new way of living is, for example, in Matthew 15 and verse 2, the man Jesus, they actually accosted him, and the teachers or the priests and the ministers back then, because he taught a doctrine that was different from theirs. In Matthew 15 verse 2, they say, "Why don't your disciples follow the traditions of the elders?" And point being is because the man taught it that traditions and religious laws, doing them and all of this, whatever it is that's done, it's not in service to the true God.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, just because it was the way things were done doesn't mean that it's the way to go.
Exactly. And this is actually why he was crucified. Because when you say that you can't do anything for God, there's nothing that you can do to please God, you actually say that there is no God. And that's what the man did by saying that sort of philosophy.
Wow.
Go
Finish it. Go ahead, please.
And so to see that body crucified, it's to see that philosophy crucified. And to see that philosophy crucified means that a new way of order is actually in place. And that new way of order is
evil.
It is evil, but it is in reality not evil, because it's a life or a personal religious conversation without constriction to religious laws.
Oh.
Meaning that by being free from religious laws, you have now the opportunity to mentally and spiritually and emotionally feel your experience. This gives you knowledge to live by, and by doing so, you're corrected inwardly. And of course, that experience is a very trying experience, because you're allowing words, you're allowing experience to train you and to correct you, which is contrary to, actual religion, which is you do this, you're good, there's no thought to it. You don't do this, you're bad, there's no thought to it. You want to redeem yourself, do this, think that, wear this, don't eat that, and you're good. But the first apostles taught that specific doctrine, that you need to be liberated from religious laws that constrict the religious conversation, because you are a thinking and feeling creature, and at the end of the day, it's not about you pleasing God, it's about how those words from God can benefit you to make your service to Him actually more genuine instead of traditionally forced.
Well, Linwood, were you always such a deep thinker? It seems like you always have to find the reason underneath. You definitely do your due diligence and you do your research. I'll give you that. But
Yeah.
were you always a deep thinker? Did people tell you about that? That you're very deep?
Actually, one of my friends says I'm an old soul. I don't know what that means or how to take it. But.
Hey, guys, I'm speaking with Linwood Jackson Jr. He is this amazing author, and the latest book that he put out, we just got finished talking about the new audiobook. It's A Prayer for Change, and we can get that if we go to linwoodjacksonjr.com. But he just put out the Bible Sabbath, and that can be found on Amazon and on linwoodjacksonjr.com. Tell me about the Bible Sabbath.
Absolutely. Well, as I talk to people that are actually in churches, I just found it to be a necessary book because there's supposed to be one God, and yet there's various days that people go to worship Him. And so, a lot of the comments I get from people, there's an intrigue into what the Sabbath is and who it's for, or why do I go to church on Sunday, but then, someone from another religion goes to church on a Friday? Mm-hmm. Or why do I go to church on a Friday, but someone else doesn't go to church on Sunday, but goes to church on a Saturday? And so this book is just an introduction to, because there's I don't know how they would call it, but there's a Muslim Sabbath, which occurs on Friday. There's a Christian Sabbath, which occurs on Sunday, but there's no Bible Sabbath. So
it doesn't say anything about that in the Bible? Doesn't say anything about... the only thing it says is a day of rest, right?
No, well, Genesis 2:3, God blessed the seventh day. And so, we follow a Roman calendar, and, the first day of the week, it's always Sunday. Seventh day of the week, it's always, Saturday.
Okay.
And so, as people are, talking to me, and as I'm hearing them, they're wondering, well, if the Bible says the seventh day, but I'm going to church on the first day, like, what's going on here? What kind of transaction happened, or, why?
Yeah. It's always strange that we don't know if we're getting it right, but I guess something that you feel, but you've done the research, so tell me how you answer that question.
Well, I answer it by the overall philosophy of the Bible is creation. There's that one philosophy of creation is the underlying factor of the entire Bible. And so, back to the illustration of the man on the cross, when you take away that chain of religious laws and traditions and commandments being imposed on your mind, when you take that away, you allow for creation to occur. And that creation being that change of inward person, and also emotional health, psychological, and also just overall well-being in your personality. You allow you to be you without thinking that you need to be your religious denomination. And so that aspect of creation is a foundation or a source to let you know that whoever put in order that Sabbath of creation in Genesis 2:3 knows what they're doing. And when you go back and actually spend the time on that day of Sabbath of creation, the seventh day, that day of rest, the way that the Bible defines it is not as we would define it in our Western culture. So for us, rest is sleep, rest is lethargy, rest is inactivity. And to the Jews back then, the Jews actually made the Sabbath a burden by saying you can't do this, you can't do that, you can't go here, you can't go there, you can't cook, you can't do any of this. They had different religious laws and traditions that they had for their Sabbath. And so that kind of threw the seventh day under the bus.
Wow, so that's kind of about what you were speaking about before, where something's been done a certain way for so long, and that's the way it should be. But here you're coming along and you're debunking a lot of this stuff.
Definitely. It needs to be.
And is that what the Bible Sabbath is about? Is basically is to look at it in a different way and not the way that you have always been told?
It's about... I would say it's a light introduction to the subject of the Sabbath, beginning to define what the Sabbath is, what that rest is. And in the Bible defines the word rest as actually not, physical laying down. In the Bible, rest is defined as mental activity. Mental activity for knowledge is the definition of rest. And it is a rest and also a refreshing. It's like your mind is being refreshed from past spiritual understanding. At this point in time, during this day, during these hours, you're refreshing your mind on spiritual understanding, and you're putting that old thought to rest while that new thought is resting inside of you. So the rest is actually mental activity. It's not physical rest, but it's a refreshing or a rejuvenation of thought and of person, basically by reviewing, rehearsing, and by learning words or counsels from words to act out. And that's basically what the book is. I introduce the definition of rest, and then I go on to give examples of how that definition plays out in the Bible.
Wow, and that's called the Bible Sabbath, and you guys can get
the
that.
Bible Sabbath.
Yeah, you guys can get it if you go to linwoodjacksonjr.com or go to amazon.com. And, there's a whole bunch of other great books by Linwood. Make sure you check out his catalog. And don't forget about A Prayer for Change. That's the new audiobook, linwoodjacksonjr.com. Well, is that the place to get the audiobook, Linwood?
You can personally get it from me, from my website, linwoodjacksonjr.com, or you can order it from Amazon. Where from me, you would actually get a physical copy of it, but on Amazon, you can just download it streaming straight to your device.
Gotcha. Yeah, I'm kind of old school. I like to. That's why I don't like any of the Kindle stuff. I don't like.
I'm the same.
Right? You look at a computer screen, too much, and by the way, I can't even see it. So that has nothing to do with what we're talking about. But I'm just talking to Linwood Jackson Jr. and we are. We went over here, but it's fine. He's always an amazing guest, and he's always got a different point of view. And the one thing you could say, that you can say about Linwood, you'll never say that the guy does not do his research because here he is. Here he's trained.
I get in there.
Yeah, I mean, you different languages, and man, you're an interesting guy. Definitely one of the world's most amazing people. Linwood Jackson Jr. What do you want to give? Thanksgiving's coming up. Do you want to leave us with something you'd like to say to my listeners in general, or about Thanksgiving, just to leave them with a thought?
Of course, I would say be thankful for your liberty to think and feel, and to critically analyze what you're going through in your life. Not everything is negative. How we take it can be negative, but critically analyze what you're going through and look into the eyes of your family members and of your friends and of your own self sometimes, and know that even you or them, we don't know what's going on. So exercise a little bit more empathy towards yourself and towards your family is the message I would like to say.
I definitely agree with that 100%. For Linwood Jackson Jr., we got to go out to the FM show right now. We're going out to the airport. But Linwood, thank you so much, and I can't wait to hear what you got to say next, buddy.
Thank you.
All right, God bless, man.
Thanks.